All right, so let's go ahead and get started here, and we'll get this moving. We want to get right to the meat of the matter today. So, stewardship technology, most of you on the call are existing clients and know who we are. We've got a couple people on the call that are new to stewardship technology, so I'll just give a brief overview of kind of what we do here real quick. At Stewardship Technology, we seek to help nonprofits fund their mission. It's our mission at Stewardship Technology to provide you guys, nonprofits, faith-based or otherwise, with the tools to fundraise and to bring those funds into your nonprofit so you can succeed in funding your mission. And we do that through, one of the ways we do that is through our all-in-one donation management platform, which is on the screen in front of you. And what we try to do is we try to bring in all of the different tool sets for fundraising into a single platform so you can access it from one place. So you don't have to have one provider for event registration, another provider for text to give, and another provider for donation management forms. We like to bring it all into a single platform. So at Stewardship, we try to offer as many resources to the nonprofit as we can. We like to call it the complete solution because it's one platform where you can access 5 different ways where you can bring funds into your company. So we'll talk a little bit about what a relationship with Stewardship might mean with you at the end, but we want to get right into it. So once a month, Stewardship has what we like to call thought leader webinars. And Stewardship partners with like-minded companies in our specific segment, and we like to allow those partners a chance to speak to our clients and to talk to them about certain topics that are important in the industry. And today, we've with us one of our partners here, JetPay Payroll. And JetPay is going to walk us through a couple different things today in regards to what payroll means in our specific section of the industry for nonprofits. They're going to walk us through taxes, setup, just having an experienced hand do some of these things for you and some of the pitfalls in the industry. So it's our goal at Stewardship to not only, of course, teach you about our products, but also to make sure that we provide some value for you in the industry that you're in so you can go back to your nonprofit and become educated on certain things that matter. So today, I want to introduce Joanne Taylor. I've got her bio up on the screen here. She's got about, as it mentions, 20 years of experience doing payroll with JetPay, ADP, some other large companies. And she's going to help walk us through some of the industry trends and kind of walk us through what Jet Payroll can offer to small nonprofits, faith-based charities in this industry. So Joanne, give me 1 second.
All right.
And I'm going to throw this over to you.
Sounds good. All right.
And then go ahead and I think you can share your screen and you should be good.
I can share my screen. All right. Perfect.
We got it. We can see.
Excellent. And now we're logging into JetPay. So thank you all so much for joining us today. My name's Joanne Taylor, as you saw my bio on the screen. I'm joined today as well by Pat DeSanto, one of my colleagues here at JetPay. And JetPay is really an HR and payroll services company, really founded in the payroll industry. Now, I like to say that we've been around for 47 years and we were started in a very tax complex state of Pennsylvania when we're talking about employee taxes. Pennsylvania was one of the first states to become very complex in reporting and filing local taxes for employees. So as I navigate through our system, I'm going to show you our single database for payroll. It could be used for additional functionality for HR services. We work with a lot of nonprofits, everything from YMCAs to our local nonprofits here. Our corporate offices is in the Allentown, Pennsylvania area, but we service and provide payroll for clients in all 50 states. And we also have some of our faith-based groups that have missionaries overseas and do some rather complex tax issues that we probably won't go into today. So what I'm going to do as I walk you through, Pat and I are going to be sharing a little bit about some of the complexities that organizations have around payroll and tax filing. Now, in the nonprofit organizations, in the faith-based organizations, you have some very unique needs, whether it's clergy housing and making sure that that's taxed and reported properly, or it could be if we're a nonprofit organization that has grant money coming into the organization, properly allocating employees' time back to the particular grant that they are working on at the time they're working on it. So that's, I'm going to show you a little bit in the system about capturing employee time, because this is an area of payroll that's really important for compliance. So regardless of what size of employer you are, you do have to comply with the Fair Labor Standards Act. And part of that is having hours recorded for your hourly employees to make sure that you have the audit records in place to show that you're properly paying your employees. Now, I'm going to jump into my payroll processing tab here, and I'm going to go into my pay entry grid. Now, I have two companies set up, so if we had an organization that had multiple EIN numbers or company codes, so let's say we're working with a local church organization and they have also a daycare center. They might have that daycare center set up under a different EIN number. In our system, you can manage both EINs in one location, process payroll, report across your organizations, but really keep those entities separate for tax purposes as well as for payroll and your financial general ledger reporting. So I'm currently in my consulting services company where I have 2 employees in the system. And if I wanted to flip over to my larger organization, I can simply pull up the payroll grid for my larger organization. Now, when a company is processing payroll, so whether you are weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly, our clients will access this payroll entry grid to begin the process of processing payroll. Now, what you see in my demo environment, and we can look at my employee here, William Abbott, that I'm hovering over. And what I've done here is as he has allocated his time in the system, he's working on different projects. So we want to pull that project information and the hours that have been assigned to each of those projects. Some of our clients don't use projects, or they don't use their labor allocation fields. That's not an important financial need for them. So they may start their time entry grid here with regular hours. So let's scroll down to an employee. Now there's a couple ways our clients can get their employees' time in the system. There's an integrated time clock in the employee self-service portal, and there is a self-service portal where the employee can access their past pay stubs, they can change their tax withholdings in the system. There's different functionality that can be done. So if I come down to Hilda here, I can see that her rate of pay regularly is $10.80 per hour. Now, if she's not recording her hours in the system, I can manually enter those hours. So let's say she worked 80 hours in this pay period, and maybe she worked 2.5 hours of overtime. Now you can see I have a column here for worked holiday. I have PTO if she had any vacation or PTO time that we needed to pay during this pay period. And I also have, whoops, my screen just enlarged on me. We'll get back to a nicer view here. And I also have any additional earnings fields. So let's say I was giving this employee a bonus, maybe commission, or maybe auto allowance. Maybe this employee's out on the road and they have a monthly or semi-monthly or bi-weekly auto allowance that I want to give and pay out in this pay period. So I can say, I'm going to give her a $250 car allowance as well. Now, if I had a clergy housing here field, I could also include my clergy housing. in this payroll run. Now, one of the things that I like about this system is that now that I've entered some earnings for Hilda, I can always go up and check her, what her pay stub's gonna look like. So before I even run payroll, I can come up to my individual time entry grid and I can preview her check. So I like this as a check and balance before you get ready to run your payroll previews in the system and process your payroll. You can always pull up that employee's pay stub and see if all of the deductions that you've entered are coming out right, all of the earnings codes, and that the employee's check is going to come out the way that you intended for that check to come out. So it's a nice system that gives you a lot of different views so that you can check your work as you go. Because as you know, the last thing we want to do is pay people improperly. Now, before I go into processing my payroll, I do want to go into and show you some of the deduction fields that are going to be important for your employees. You might have medical deductions coming out. You might have different deduction codes that our employees pay. Now, the way they're set up in the system, whether it's a pre-tax or it's a post-tax deduction, is really up to the different companies that we work with. So when we bring a client over to our payroll platform, we really work with you to understand which of these deductions are going to be pre-tax or post-tax so that we're properly reporting on our client's behalf. One of the things that we do for our clients is we take over power of attorney so that we become the tax filer for our clients. So we're going to be processing and filing the 941s, the annual federal taxes for our clients. We'll process all of your W-2s at the end of the year. And if you are a larger organization that needs the ACA reporting, that is something that our system can handle as well. So one of the things that I wanted to point out in deductions is one that's rather common. So I'm going to go into my employee deduction screen and I'm going to find one of my favorite demo guys here, Richard. And Richard has a particular deduction coming out, and he has an employee loan. Of course, it may have expired. So let's say you've given a loan to an employee, or perhaps you have an employee that has gone out on a medical leave and you've covered their portion of their health insurance while they're gone. But when they return, they're going to repay that back to the organization. The employee loan section is great because you can set a balance for that loan. Let's say he comes back and owes $1,000 back to the organization, but you want to be realistic and say maybe they're only going to withhold $25 or $50 per pay until that loan is paid back. So the system will know when the employee has reached the balance due, and it will automatically turn off that loan payment when it's satisfied in full. And what's nice is that the employee can see that on their pay stub, anything that's been paid into the loan, as well as their year-to-date, what they've paid. So it's just a nice additional functionality that you can see very easily in the system, all of the deductions that could be assigned to your employees, and the same, we can do the same with the earnings codes. So all of your different earnings codes, if you're tracking different types of earnings, then we can also create those earnings codes in the system. Now, before I run payroll, I am going to log out as an administrator, and I do want to pop over just as an employee because I want to show you that employee self-service portal briefly, and we'll pick on Richard again. You're going to see the landing page that the employees see in our system. Now, if your employees are recording time in the system, there's an integrated time clock. So we could just punch Richard in for the day. So what's nice about using the integrated time is that when we go over to run payroll, their hours for the week are already going to pull into the time entry grid. So there's no need to manually enter that time. And then the employee can always pull up their time card and see all of their punches for the pay period or for the week or even for the day. So we can come down and see Richard's punch for Thursday the 7th, and he just punched in at 3:16 p.m. So just a nice kind of integration that the system can have your employees punch their time or record their time, and they can also verify their time at the end of the pay period. Just a nice thing that the system does. Employees would, if you choose to use additional functionality, they could see their balances for time off. They could even request time off in the system. So if you would like your employees to be able to schedule their vacation, that can be handled in the system as well. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the employee self-service portal, but you kind of get the idea of capturing time as well as the employee's view. I'm going to go back in as an administrator, and I'm going to run the payroll. So let's go ahead and go back into my bright skies where it's always sunny. And we're going to go ahead and come back down to payroll processing, and we're going to run the payroll previews. When you're ready to run previews or run your payroll, the first thing you want to do is preview your payroll and look at a couple of your reports that are processed by the system. So right now you can see that my payroll preview is running, and when my preview has successfully processed, I'm going to be able to look at a couple of reports in the system before I hit the submit payroll button and just make sure that everything looks okay. Now that my payroll has generated successfully, I now have a list of reports that I can look at in preview mode. So a lot of our groups want to look at the payroll summary report. And now this is going to be the important one that tells me how much I need to fund payroll. But it will also show you how many employees you're paying, how many might be on live check versus direct deposit. It will also show you some of your summaries, your year-to-date earnings. So now I can see if there's any kind of garnishments or third-party checks that are coming out of your employees' pay. You can see those third-party checks here. So we process garnishments as just a matter of course with a payroll company. But that could also indicate any kind of retirement savings that have come out of an employee's pay, or maybe their health insurance deductions as well. And now I can see my total payroll funding. If I scroll down to the second page, this is where you can see all the payroll taxes that are going to be pulled out of this payroll. So we do pull your payroll taxes so that we can file appropriately. Whether you're filing, the frequency of the filing really depends on the individual organization, and we will file accordingly. And then you can see you have your current, your month-to-date, quarter-to-date, and your year-to-date taxes that are coming out. On the final page of the summary report, you're also going to see all of the earnings and deductions that came out of that, or that will come out of this payroll. And just remember, we're looking at this in preview mode before we've processed payroll. So this is where you catch any, last minute things that might need to be changed before we click on process payroll. Some of our clients like to look at the full payroll register, and this is where you can look employee by employee through the register and see all of an employee's earnings and deductions and taxes. So you really get a mini snapshot of what their pay stub is going to look like. So again, just a nice check and balance. You can make sure that their rate of pay is right, that their net pay, their gross pay looks good, and then you'll be able to see and audit any deductions or any taxes that needed to come out of this employee's pay. So obviously when you've done your payroll previews, you can go ahead and click on the process payroll button here. And again, you're going to get a green pop-up box that lets you know your payroll has successfully generated. And then all of these reports are now going to run in final processed mode. One of the things I like about the system is that the reporting is really robust. So now these reports that have processed every time you generate a payroll are going to be stored over here in the report archive file. Now, unlike some payroll platforms, we never purge the data. So one of the great things about this system is having the access to the historical data. So I can always go back to a prior year or to a prior payroll and pull those reports that ran or were generated on that payroll run. We also have embedded in the system is a report writer tool. So as our clients need more custom reports, they have a dedicated JetPay payroll person to help with that, but it's a nice way to show the reporting in the system. This is important as you move through your organization, and maybe your CPA needs reports, maybe just to update your general ledger for, you know, your own internal accounting purposes. Having a good report writer tool is a strong asset for any client. So if I wanted to come down to my report archive file, and let's say I want to go back and let's say I do want to pull a report that ran on a particular pay period, whether it's my retirement report. Some of our organizations have a 401k or a 403b. So that's going to be an important report so that we can transfer the money back to you know, the organization that's handling those funds for your group. You can also see that there's some additional reports in here. My year-end reports are going to be here. If I go over to client reports, this is important too because you've got your tax reports here. You really want to have access to your tax filing so that you can go back in the system, in whatever system you're using, and be able to show and prove that you've properly filed all of your taxes, whether it's your quarterly 941s, whether it's your federal taxes. You have access to those at your fingertips. And then, like I said, one of the most important things about payroll also is the year-end W-2 reporting. Again, most of our organizations will have us run and send out to their employees the W-2s at the end of the year so that you can comply with all the federal W-2 reporting requirements.
So one of the things I would just like to interject with is after we've shown you what's involved in just a regular standard payroll, there's probably several people that have joined us today that have processed payroll. And you're probably are realizing now that payroll isn't just payroll anymore, that there's so many other facets of it that have to be thought through and covered as you're administering payroll. Simple tax requirements, regulatory requirements, handbook requirements, state level requirements. The list goes on. Are you giving benefits? Are you paying? Are you offering a 401k? There's just so many pieces to it that you want to make sure that you are compliant with. So there's record retention laws that could be in your state that you need to make sure that you are taken care of. So the point of having a payroll service that's like this particular software is that it covers, it pulls together all that information, whether you have 1 employee or 1,000 employees, in the simplest and most easy to manage format as possible.
One of the things that we hear frequently from clients is that they can't keep abreast of all the changing tax laws and how it impacts their business. So it's nice to have an organization that specializes in, you know, taxes and payroll. So we're making those changes to make sure our organizations are compliant with the technology so that you don't have to do the research and do the, you know, wondering if this new tax law, how it impacts your business. Well, organizations like ours, that's what we specialize in. So we're able to be out there before the laws even take effect to educate our clients and to be making those changes in the system so that you know you're covered from a compliance perspective.
We'll take just a brief pause for a moment because there was just a lot of information and a brief demo of our system, but would like to address some questions or concerns specifically with this audience. If you'd like to present some of those questions. Trey, are you managing the question piece?
Yes. So guys, in your chat function, everybody here has a chat function. If you guys would type any of your questions that you might have for Joanne and Patricia, I'll air them out as they come in and we'll try to get some answers. This is a nice moment to take the time to ask some experts. So even, you know, as they've seen, have you kind of seen their system today? and kind of seen some of all of the breadth of what it does, it's good to kind of ask those questions right now if you're running into any specific things. I know they mentioned housing allowance, how you report that, what laws go into that. Go ahead and type your questions into the group chat. I liked what Patricia and Joanne were just saying about all of the different changes in the laws and being able to keep up with that. I kind of know that from firsthand basis. My sister, who got a legal degree, she's a tax writer, and this is an actual job that she does full time and has been doing it for 15 years now. Every time the tax law changes, she writes up briefs for the industry, and the tax law changes so often, and it's so complex in some ways, that this is her actual job, is to write up briefs on all of the tax changes for companies like JetPay and other ones, so that they can provide that information to you guys. So having a resource like this to ask questions now, or to ask questions in the future, because as I mentioned, JetPay is one of Stewardship's partners. So anytime that you have interest in payroll or questions surrounding payroll, you can always come through your support option for your Stewardship Technology portal. You can always email Julianne or direct to sales any sort of payroll questions that you have, and we can always set you up with JetPay to have payroll services. So any of those questions that you guys have, throw in your chat. I haven't seen any come through yet, but as I see them come through, I'll call them out. Or if you have any questions after this about specific tax situations that your nonprofit is going through, you have my email on the webinar invite. You can always send anything to Julianne at support@EGS Network or support@stewardshiptechnology.com, and we'll make sure we get those answers for you. Ladies, it doesn't look like I've got anything come through yet. Do you have any final questions or comments or words for the group?
Yeah, you know, Trey, I'll kind of interject here and just throw this out to the group. One of there's two recent, I shouldn't say they're that recent, they've been coming down the pike for quite a while, but areas of compliance that kind of catch employers off guard. One is the mandatory paid sick leave laws that are sweeping across the country. So different states and different cities and different counties have different paid sick leave laws. The governor of New Jersey just signed a law that will go into effect at the end of October this year, requiring employers, even small employers, to provide some type of paid sick leave. Again, it's just smaller groups kind of fly under the radar, and they miss some of these compliance areas that they need to be complying with. And it's really our job and our mission to make certain that clients know and are aware of the rules that they have to follow, but also to keep them compliant in the present. So that was that's one of the big ones that we've been spending a lot of time talking about lately.
Yeah, and things like that seem to be a regular occurrence in the world of payroll. It's gone beyond just giving someone a paycheck for X amount of hours worked. It's really become much more complex. And we try to make it as simple as possible for those that are administering payroll. And you almost don't know what you don't know anymore.
Right. And what you did know yesterday, it could change tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Trey. This kind of ends our portion of the presentation, and you can kind of take it over from there, and if there's any other questions.
Okay, perfect.
And if you want to share our contact information for anyone after the presentation that wants to ask questions, they didn't want to ask it on the presentation today, happy to oblige those questions as well.
Perfect. Thank you, ladies. So as I mentioned, and one person asked, we'll be sharing a copy of this video out to everybody that was invited, so you can review it again at your own leisure and kind of take notes or think of different questions. As I said before, you can always email those questions to me, Trey Swallow at tswallow@stewardshiptechnology.com, or to Julianne at support at stewardshiptechnology.com, and that should all be in your guys' emails that you got from us. So if you have any questions about payroll or want to get set up with JetPay Payroll, please let us know and we can facilitate that arrangement for you. Otherwise, we appreciate everybody's time today and your time with Stewardship, and we thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.